This is a picture of our K-bar. Our K-bar didn't look, this is a fancy one that they sell now to civilians who are Marines, but our K-bar didn't have all the little symbols on it, no. It was just plain. And that's something we carried with us all the time. Because we rarely even took our little submachine guns because most of our work was supposed to be reconning places and getting intel about the different places. But this was, I turned mine in, which I should not have done, but I turned mine in when, of course, when I left there. I didn't want to keep it because I didn't want to be dishonest. These are some of my friends that I made. My best friend is the one standing next to me to the left. His name is Joseph Jerome Spikella. We would call him Spike, but he was my best friend. The other two, the one on this side, I remember a story about this guy on the left side. We used to go to Tijuana a lot, and this guy Harlan had a brand new Ford. What do you call it when the top comes down? A convertible. So one day, 4 or 5 of us got together, and we drove down to Tijuana, and from Tijuana we went to Ensenada. And we just laid around on the beaches and just walked around, had a great time. Lynn Scott hired a horse. Well, he didn't hire a horse, he hired it from his owner. But he went riding all over Ensenada, and when we were coming back to the base, he couldn't sit down. He had typical sores on his nalgas, where he had been sitting on the saddle and jumping up and down, and that's all I can remember about Lynn Scott. I don't remember anything else. But this in the background was our barracks, and they were not just. It's funny, like in you see the separation of the barracks. One platoon or one company was in each section, so we really didn't know anybody else. We were in B Company. Company is 240 men, but in our company, we worked with platoons or squads. So we only knew maybe 10, 15 guys really well. And the others, we knew who they were, but we really didn't have a whole lot of communication with them, or we didn't stand duty with them. It was mostly our little bunch that we always had together. And so this is how I got to know my other friends. And so this was our barracks, and we're standing out. We're getting ready to go on duty because we have our 45s on our hips. And we still have to because they do what they call a fire watch. And that was kind of like in the old ships, that they couldn't have a fire or an open fire because the ship caught fire. That'd be the end of the ship. So they adopted that from the Navy, and so we used it, we called it fire watch. But we would walk guard around specific targets so that we were sure that nothing illegal or fire might start. So we were getting ready here to go on duty. One of the first things I learned was that we needed to learn how to swim very well, because one of our main duties was just to either land off submarines or ships or whatever, or if you got to go from like one island to another, our main mode of transportation was a rubber boat. And so when I learned that, I thought, shoot, I'm not a good swimmer. And so we had to go to the swimming pool every day for a couple of hours. And here we learned the different types of strokes. Like for speed, you use the American crawl. For the Australian, it's every other kick. And so you wouldn't go quite as fast. And so we had to learn the different strokes. I was used to using the dog paddle, just and actually that was our main use of when we left the rubber boats or we went to scout. We would do the dog paddle so we wouldn't bring our hands out of the water, because if you bring the hands out of the water, they could catch the reflections off the moon or the sun or something. So we always swam either with, like you're actually swimming, but you're using your strokes under the water. You don't break the water. So, so that's the kinds that we used, but we had to learn every other one also. And so we spent most of our time at the swimming pool, and I actually became a good swimmer. Some of my favorite strokes are the backstroke and breaststroke. Breaststroke is pretty much you extend your arms forward, and then you kick, and then you float, and then you do the same thing, and then you go underwater and you come back up. So it's kind of a rest stroke. If you have to go a long ways, this is the one you use instead of using a stroking out of the water like the American or the Australian. We also learned we had to go down our pool of 12 feet deep. We had to go down there and undress and come up. Then you take your pants and tie the legs down by the ankles, and then you would bring it up into the air and grab it by the waist, and then you would put your legs around your neck to the back, and that would make you a good lifesaver, because the pants would keep the air for a long time, and so that was the way you could have like a lifesaver, a life jacket, if you didn't actually have one. Another way of surviving was this kind of scary, and I did it, but I was never a friend of the water. I mean, everything I did, I liked it, but I was always a little bit afraid of the water. Another trick was you take a breath, then you take a deep breath, then you allow your body to go down, and then when you're down there, you're expelling a little bit of air. When you run out, then you go back up, and this way you're not using any muscles or any motion. You're just like sitting in the water, and when you take a deep breath, you position yourself so you go down, and then after a while, the air in your lungs will bring you up, and you expel some of the water as you're going up. When you reach the top, you expel all the water, take another deep breath, and go back down. And this way you don't use any of your muscles, you don't move, and you can last a long time without having to move a lot and get tired. Our bread and butter training was rubber boats. And, oh, and either making landings from beach or even submarines from, so that when I started recon, they told us, these are your boats, take good care of them. So we had to carry our rubber boats everywhere we went, 6 men per boat. We even used them on the way to the mess hall and would put them outside. They would come out, pick them up, and start a little, I don't know if you call them songs, but they were like jingles that we would sing. I can't remember any of them right off, but we would carry our boat back to our assignment or to our barracks, wherever we would go. And I noticed, at first I thought it was kind of dumb. But then I noticed that other Marines who, because Camp Horner's not very big, but it's got quite a few Marines there. So I noticed that when we were carrying our rubber boats and singing these little jingles we had, that other Marines would stop and their jaw would almost drop because they said, wow, look at those guys, they're crazy, you know, carrying those boats around. And after a while, that it made us feel good because we felt like we're a little bit above what the regular Marine is. Recon is not just any kind of outfit. We're special because we're very special forces that have very specific jobs to do. And so they would look at us, and I started feeling like they had a great deal of respect, and that made us feel good.
Did you have a lot of people start recon and not finish?
Not that I know of. Not that I know. Most of us, it wasn't excessively hard, but it was different. But most of our training was, I think what would make most of them quit was the swimming part, because you had to learn all these kind of techniques, and that would make some of them quit. But otherwise, it wasn't. Once you got into recon, you learn very specific things, but you don't do like in boot camp. We had to go crawling through mud and things with machine guns shooting over you, and barbed wire right over you. It wasn't anything like this. It was mostly endurance, and but we used to have to hike a lot, and you had to be good at like reading your compass and maps, and a lot of our work would be done at night. So, but one of our main things was to land on the river boat, and this was done. We practiced in the daytime, but many times it was required that you do this in the nighttime. So we had to, for example, in learning to land this Spikel in the middle, and then it's soggy. He was an Indian from Washington. This guy, I know him, but I can't remember his name. I think he was Jackson. He was another Indian from Oregon. And this is the way we dressed for our training out there. But we had to learn to be good swimmers, and because that's what we did. Just, you see the cliffs in the back? Sometimes we would come to cliffs like that where they would leave us off, and you actually had to rappel down and send your rubber boats down carefully, because not everywhere we went it was flat. There were many times where it was like this. So you had to be good at learning how to rappel and how to make sure that that you could rappel down and get your boat down safely. And there's a picture in here where we see a riverboat landing, but the waves are only about maybe 3.5, 4 feet. But many of the places where we went, the waves were 7, 8, 9 feet deep. And this is Jackson over here in the very end, right there, yeah. This is Johnston. He was a catcher for the Seahawks baseball. That's Gregory.
This one?
Gregory. Oh, that's Johnston. This is Gregory. When I got out of the Marine Corps, he and Spikella actually stopped in Deming. Not Deming, I lived in Bayard. She actually stopped in Bayard to see me, spent a couple of days there, and he went on back to California. Yeah, see, these are kind of like baby, see how this guy's standing here? So these are kind of baby waves that we get here. But most of the time they took us out where the waves were pretty high. If you were in a rubber boat and we would take the rubber boat, we would carry the rubber boat as far as we could go. Then we would jump in them when the water was about waist high and start paddling. And then you have to go through the breakers. And many times you had to time them just right, because if you were paddling and then a wave started coming over you, you had to learn how to wait and let it break, and then as soon as it broke, then you started back up. So we would take our river boats past the breaker line and wait out in the ocean maybe 50 yards or so, and then we would start our ascent into the beach. And we got to know, we did this so much, we got to know that about every 7th wave would be a small one. The other would be pretty big, but about every 7th would be a shorter wave. So we would wait in our boat and we'd count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then after the 6th one, we'd say, this is it. So as soon as the 6th one broke, we'd stop paddling as fast as we could, because if you didn't paddle fast enough to catch the top of the wave, it could break over you. And if it broke over you, that meant it sent the boat, it would fill the boat up with water, and the boat would go down, and of course would go down with it. So what we did is we never carried our machine guns, and everything that we had that we would take would be tied down. A few times we didn't time it well, and the break, as we were going, it would raise up in front of us and break over us, same way going into the beach. And the water would just break over and fill the thing and just take it down to the bottom. And next thing you knew, you were down in the bottom, rolling in the sand, and the ocean wasn't very deep there because the waves don't break way out in the ocean. And so it would break over you, and it would take you out up to the bottom. We would roll in the sand and finally come up. They would kind of whisper each other, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we'd spot our paddle, because our paddle would be gone, and then we would get together, get back in the boat because it was already by the beach, have to do it all over again. We had to land at night several times, and this was kind of kind of dangerous because there's no light, so you don't really know where the waves are coming. So the only way you can kind of tell is by hearing when they crinkle on top and the water starts breaking. It makes us, I don't want to say like a faucet, but like water dripping. And so we knew that the wave just broke, and so then we would ride it and try to catch it just as it broke, so that it would pretty well take us to the beach if we were, if we were all right. We would still paddle some, but it would take us pretty much to the beach. But that was our bread and butter. We did a lot of landings like that. One was where we had to land off a submarine. No?
That's coming up.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Okay. One of the things we had to learn about the river boats is they would make us go out, put on our life jacket. It was the old-fashioned World War II type. It had a little compressed air bottle here with a string, and if you and so we would put it on. It also had a place where you could blow it up with your mouth, and we put a little bit of air in it just so it wouldn't be too difficult to breathe, and so it wouldn't be rubbing our arms. But I happened to bring mine home. Is it on this one? This is it. This is where you breathe in. You blow it in and blow it up just a little bit, just so that it won't be rubbing your underarms too much. This is the little canister that's got compressed air in it, and then you have a string here that I don't have the string on it anymore. But if you get in trouble, you can pull that string. It punches that and it fills it up for you right away. And so there's other little things to it that you can carry stuff in and all. But this is basically the life jacket that we would use. You just strap it on your back like a backpack, and that's the way you would use it. Anyway, we had to do this, and these things weigh about probably 5 pounds or so, and so we had to put it on. Then we had to swim out the breaker line where the waves are coming in. We'd have to swim out that way, and then about 20 yards further, where the water was no longer breaking in, and it was pretty calm. They had a boat there, and when you got to that boat, then it would point you out to the side, and then you would start swimming. You had to swim a mile, and although we'd been swimming in the swimming pool all the time and in the beach, when we were with our river boats, we still swim in the ocean, back and forth. But that would really test you as how much endurance you had. And so we would swim out to the boat, and he'd show us where to go. We'd start swimming, and about every 200 yards or so there was a boat. And then there was also roving boats, because some kids couldn't make it. And so we'd swim, and Spike Hill, of course, my best friend and I were the ones who were partners. So we start swimming, and we use every type of rest stroke. So that you use your breaststroke sometimes turn over on your back and use your backstroke just easy, not breaking water too much, but just going in and making yourself go forward. And so we went, I don't remember now how many boats there were in a mile, but we went, and every boat we counted would say we're this much closer to the end. And so about, I don't know, about maybe 50 yards or so from the last boat, Spike said, I'm not going to make it, I'm cramping up. And I said, Spike, don't leave me, I'll help you, I'll hold you up, and you can kick your legs so you can get those cramps out. And he said, no, I just went a little bit further so I can't. So he raised his hand and waved, and one of the rowing boats came and picked him up. And I got mad at him because he abandoned me. And so I kept going, and it's tiresome to swim a mile like that, especially with this thing on. It's hard. So I finally got to the last boat, and the guy just said, beach. So I turned and I started going to the beach. Well, after you hit the break, you try to catch a breaker to help you get to the beach. And after you feel like it's about the water maybe chest height, or a little lower, you let yourself go and try to stand up. Well, I got to the point where I felt I could see that the water was not so deep. So I tried to stand up and my legs wouldn't hold me up. They were like rubber. And I'd go back down and I wouldn't stay under, but I would kind of walk on the bottom a little bit, and where I had my head up. And finally I got to the end where I could stand up, where the water was very low, I could stand up, and I kind of collapsed after I reached the beach. One guy, I remember his name was Henderson. He was a short guy, and he was kind of not too strong, but he made it all the way to the last. He was after me. He made it all the way to, because only about half of us made it. He went all the way to the last one. Then he started in, and when he started in, he tried to stand up, and his legs would not carry him. He would fall and go underwater. Then he'd try to get up, and his legs could not carry him. So two of the lifeguards who were there to see just that ran out there and picked him up by the arms and half carry him in while he wobbled all the way to the beach. After I'd been sitting there for a little while, Spike Keller kept running up and said, oh, I see you made it. And I said, get away from me, you quitter. And he got kind of scared because he thought I was really mad at him. But we used to joke with each other. But I did get pissed off because he didn't stay with me. But if he was cramping, I could understand, that he had to make it. And so in all this thing, I would always, like I did in boot camp, ITR, everywhere, I would say, I'm not going to quit. I don't want other people looking at me and say, he's a quitter. He quit doing this or he couldn't do that. And so it would scare the heck out of me in doing some things, like rappelling. I'm not a person who likes heights. And so we didn't rappel very high, but it was...
It's coming up. Let's do this last one for tonight.
Oh, okay. Another one of our jobs we had was, because in World War II, especially in Tarawa. The Navy crewmen would bring in these landing crafts full of Marines, and they were hit, and they thought they had hit the beach. So the front would lower, and these Marines loaded with their backpack, their bullets, their grenades, their rifles, and their BARs, Browning automatic rifles. They were very heavy. They would start running, and suddenly they disappeared into the water. And a lot of them drowned because they had not done enough reconnaissance to realize that there were coral reefs before the beach. So when the landing craft hit there, it was solid. So I thought they were on the beach. They would open these poor Marines, they would never get to the beach. They would drown right there. And so one of our jobs was to, we had to go to different places with different types of terrains, and they would give us a little aluminum plate about a yard wide, maybe a yard high, and with a string to put around our necks. Then they had also tied a string with an aluminum pencil, and then what we had to do is from the beach to sand, about every 8 feet, maybe 10 feet, maybe not even that far, we would start walking in the water. And then when the water got up to our chest, that we couldn't walk anymore, then we would dive. And we would go under, and we would look at everything on the bottom, and on this slate that we had, we would draw like rocks or seaweed, whatever we would see there. And we would go until they tell us to stop, which would be about maybe where the water was maybe 10 to 12 feet. Because if it's 10 to 12 feet, a boat can come in that far. But closer than that, if there's stones or something, coral reefs, if they hit bottom and they open that door and Marines get out, they'll drown. And so we would have to do that. After, there would be about 10 of us. Then after we all went down and printed on our aluminum slate what there was, then what would happen is they would call us all out, and we would go out, and we would all stand in line just the way that we went in. Then they would have us lay our slates down in line, and then they would make a map of the bottom of the sea as far as we had gone. And like I said, we didn't have to go more than maybe 8 to 10 feet, because in that much, the boats can actually go in. They only take me 4 or 5 feet of water. And so that was another kind of thing that I thought was pretty neat that we did. Because then some of the guys would say, wow, there's a huge boulder over there. Another guy would say, there's nothing but beach over here. So they would plan all that. We know if we have to make a landing, we won't go here, but we can go over here.
Last one.
One of the most, well, not most, because they were all exhilarating to me, but one of the things that I got a big kick out of, but I was always nervous on these things. because you never knew what was going to really happen. You'd never done it before. So they tell us, this is what we're going to do. But in the back of your mind, you were always wondering, is it really going to be safe? And so they said we were going to make a landing off a submarine. I thought, well, that's great, that's exciting. But in the back of your mind, I wonder how, if I'm going to drown. So they put in the submarine. There was a bunch of us. There was other platoons there too. And they took our rubber boats, because we had to paddle our rubber boats out to the submarine. And it was amazing. The sailors of the submarine would only come about this far up. And the sailors would get out and they'd I don't know what kind of machine they had, but our rubber boats would go shoot, and they were down to nothing. And so we would carry them inside, and they told us where we were going to be. And so we took all the rubber boats in, and when they said what they're going to secure, we all got inside. And on this particular one, it was almost, we had another one, but on this particular one, it was almost night. And so they came up, after we put our boats and everything in, they closed the hatches, and we were ready to go, and they took off. Anyway, we got in the boat, and they closed the hatches, and then you felt it start to sink. And one of the ways we found out that it was sinking was because it started to go, you could feel kind of like a motion, like rocking, and then you hear click, 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 as the water was trying to push in on the thing. And my thought was, I just hope that the thing does not, I just hope that the thing does not sink or implode while we're here. And
That's just to show the article that you have still.
yeah, this this is a Marine Corps newspaper that they put out, and in this newspaper is a story of the recon Marines. I noticed up there on the TV that our Captain Fred D. McLean was our company commander of Bravo Company. That was my company, and he went ahead to know what to do, and then after he came back after few days, I guess, and then he told us what we were supposed to do. And so this is the article that appeared in the newspaper. But as the submarine started going down, you could hear clicking and creaking, and you were kind of afraid that it might implode. But
didn't you have to get on top or ride on it or something? How did you guys get into the submarine itself? Did it just pop up and you guys got on top of it?
What do you mean? When we went out with our rubber boats, the sailors, the thing was up already, and the sailors just got it and deflated them. So we got a rubber boat and carried them into the submarine, and they got pretty small. And then when they were ready to, when we were getting to land, then the sailors again would call each boat out, and they would get compressors, and it would just, the thing would just blow up completely. Then you'd have your paddles. They put them down in the thing came up only about this far off the water, the submarine, and then you get in your rubber boat and get away from the submarine, away enough, and then after our squad got ready, Sergeant McLean was in one of them, and then I don't know if they had a signal on the land, but I know that he was looking at his watch because I was in one of the boats closer to him, and then suddenly he said, "Okay, let's go." So we all started paddling. Now this was almost after dusk; it was almost completely dark, and so we took off and went to the beach, and then others would go to other places, other boats. There was a bunch of them, and then they would go to another place, and then we would go recon a bridge. And while we were there, we were to find out where the trestles and everything was. So if you needed to blow that bridge up, you would know which place to put the plastic explosives. And so we reconned it all and kind of drew places, of where it was, so that if somebody had to blow it up, or if we had to blow it up, you would know where to place all the explosives. Anyway, it took us about an hour, hour and a half, or maybe even more, because he said the submarine's going to come up at a particular place where he left us, but it'll be night and it'll only come about this high off the out of the sea. So he said we have to be there at that time, or they're going to leave us. So we had hidden the boat, and after we got done, Captain McLean said, "Okay, let's go back." So we started back, and we got there a little bit early, so we were just kind of paddling, just kind of keeping in place. And suddenly you hear this whoosh, and the submarine comes up. First you see this, I don't know what you call it, and then like a canopy, and then it comes up about this far, and then the Navy guys open up and they come right out, deflate our boats, and we carry them, go back in, and then and now we're in a different place because they had to pick other guys up. There were a bunch of us, and so that was one of the great adventures, because I was always waiting for the maybe the thing to explode or whatever, implode. So we spent the night there, very uncomfortable, and then the next day before we landed, they took a whole bunch of boats and they hooked them together, and they hooked them to the top of the submarine. Then the submarine took off and they pulled us all over. That was neat because they were going fast. I mean, not too fast. They were going fast, but it was, you could put your hand in the water, splash up, But that was our reward for having made that. So it was that was one of the big adventures that I had there. But that's why we practiced the riverboat so much, because we had to make the landings many times at night, because that's when you can't be seen. You always send one scout from the boat. You always send one scout who goes to and like I said, you dog paddle so you don't break water. Because if they are on the beach and they see this little splatter of water, the enemy's going to say, we know where they are, and they know where to get us. So you always swim with just barely the nose out of the water. And so that, but that was one of the big things, we did. Captain Fred McLean was the one who signed my my discharge papers and my Liberty card.
Didn't you used to have training where they had lanterns that would like blink and you'd have to pay attention to them?
No, I don't know how they got messages, but you mean like lights? Like
yeah, I thought you told us about stories about that. No,
that's mostly on ships.
Oh.
to communicate with each other without using radio. But